In this video, we're going to look at how to create a database using Microsoft's database Access to create a database of your friends and collect some useful information on them, their dietary preferences, their birthdays, contact details, that kind of thing. So to do that, we're going to launch Access. So in the search bar, you would type Access, and then you would look for your Access app to pop up. And I've just clicked it open, and it'll open here. You can see a list of recent databases. So these are all databases that you've opened recently. So that's a way in to find databases you've created previously. But we're going to be creating a blank database. So I click on blank database, and it's saying it can't create it in that folder. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to point it to my downloads folder, and I'm going to create a database there. Let me call it friends. I'll just call it friends and click OK. And you'll notice it's put here friends.accdb. ACCDB stands for Access Database, and it's going to be pointing to my downloads folder. What's quite useful about putting it in your downloads folder is that, well, that's a folder that's easy to find, but you can place it into any document folder. So you'll notice I'm saying where I want to save it first. I haven't even created the database yet, and I've given it a name, and I say where I want to create it. After that, whenever I enter data, it kind of updates itself. So I don't have to go file, save the whole time. So I'm going to click create, and it creates that database. I just need to open this window up a little bit here so I can see a little bit more. And it opens up into a blank table, and it has this weird looking thing here. It just says ID new and then click to add. Well, okay. Databases, when you first come across them, look a little bit intimidating, but they're actually very, very simple. Over here on the extreme left-hand side, you'll notice you've got a view. So any object that you are in, you have different types of views. Datasheet view is what shows you your data. So it's like having a sheet of paper with all your data written out on it. The design view is where you go and change what it looks like. So we're creating a table, and you'll know that tables have columns and rows. Well, in databases, the columns are the type of information that we're collecting. It's called fields. And then the rows are the records, or each individual friend that we're collecting data about. So at the moment, I'm looking at the datasheet view, but there are no columns have been added yet. So I need to go into design view to go and create the design. And it's asking me to give a name for my table. So this is a table of all my friends, so I'm just going to call it friends. And now we get this view. And again, it looks somewhat intimidating, but don't worry. What it is that here are my fields, and I'm typing in basically the names of my fields and saying what type of data each field is. So it's like going across columns and giving them column headings, what I want my headings to be, and then formatting each column. Is it number? Is it text? Is it currency? What is it? The first field is called ID. That's an automatic number. You'll notice it says data type auto number, and it's got a little key next to it. This ensures that each record that you enter, each friend that you enter, has something unique about them. It can't be name, because you might have two friends called Mary, for example. Many other things it can't be, like ID number. Maybe not every friend has an ID number. Not even something like cell phone. You know, some people, if they're in the same family, might share the same cell phone number, for example. So it's always best to have a special field called ID, and each database has this, and it's just an automatic number. It means that the first friend you enter will be number 1, the second will be number 2, number 3, number 4, etc. And you don't have to worry about this. It's just automatically appears. So the first thing we've got to worry about is what fields we want to have in our database. Well, I'm sure we want people's first names, and we probably want their surnames, and we probably want their email address and their mobile number. If we have that, we can probably get hold of them. We want their birth dates, so we know when their birthdays are, so we can remember to wish them happy birthday. I've always found it quite useful to keep track of people's allergies. A lot of people have allergies, so it's quite nice if you know what people's allergies are. It's probably a good idea to keep track of people's food preferences. So if they are halal or anything like that, then you probably want to know. So preferences, okay. Now you'll notice that it's all been adding here as short text. And that's kind of like the default. Short text means it's text or numbers, and all of those are added as text. Short means, I think, less than 255 characters. So certainly none of it will need more than 255 characters. But I've got to keep an eye out. Maybe I need to change some of these data types, and you change it by clicking in there and clicking the arrow. So you've got long text, number, large number, date and time, currency, yes, no, calculated, lookup wizard. We'll get to lookup wizard in a moment. Suffice it to say that most things are text, including a mobile number. And you might think, well, surely that's a number. But remember, what number do numbers start with, telephone numbers start with? They start with zeros, right? And if it's a number, what happens if you start with a 0? Well, it just takes it away again, doesn't it? So you can't have telephone numbers as numbers. It has to be text, even though it's all numbers. And also, what if it's plus 27 or something like that? So numbers only have to be things that you kind of calculate. If you want to add it, subtract it, multiply it, divide it, then it has to be a number. But most other things will be text. So I'm going to show you a few cool things you can do. There's something called GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. And anyone typing data into a database is going to make mistakes. It's human error. Typing mistakes, spelling mistakes, stuff like that. So you want to eliminate that as much as possible. One way of eliminating it is to control the entry of things. So for example, if allergies, there are only a certain number of allergies that people have. So I would prefer to have it as a kind of drop-down list and people make a selection so that they don't misspell it. Because if it's misspelled, it's going to show up as a completely different allergy. Computers are not that bright. So how do I make my allergies thing a drop-down list? Well, if I go where it says short text and I go down to the lookup wizard, that's where I do it. And it opens up a little box and it says, I want the lookup field to get values from another table. So I could make another table and have all my allergies there. But I'm going to click, I will type in the values that I want. And I'm going to click next. And under column 1, always have one column. Don't try and be too fancy. Under column 1, I'm going to list all the allergies that I can think of. So obviously nuts is a big one. Lots of people are allergic to dust. There's pollen. What else? Allergic to bee stings. So you create a list, and then when you're happy, and you can always add to this list later, I'll show you now, you click next, and it says, what label do you want? Well, you can keep the one that's there, the same as the field name, that's absolutely fine. Limit to list means they can only choose things that are in the list. I always like to tick that because I don't want a kind of blank thing where someone can type something in. They can make a mistake, just like, with entering it alone. Do you want to allow multiple values? In other words, can you be allergic to dust and to pollen? Yeah, you can. So we need to allow multiple values. They can tick quite a few things. When I click finish, you'll notice nothing happens here. It still says short text. And don't panic. If you go down and you click on lookup, you'll see that the list that you've given is there. And if you want to edit it, if you need to add to it, you just go along that column, you go to the end row, you click inside, and where you see the three dots, click on the three dots, and you can go and add to your list. So you can be allergic to shrimp, for example. And I could add something like a default value. I could have something here, for example, none. And I could make my default value none. So you have a list or you have no allergies, you're selecting none, and that's by default. In other words, if you don't change it, then it will just say none. And you'll notice my list has been updated there now. I could do the same for food preferences, for example. I could put in whether someone's vegetarian, whether they're halal or kosher, whether they are vegan or pescatarian or a carnivore or whatever it is. I could make another list, and that's quite a good idea. So try and think of some more fields you might want to add, and make sure you add at least one lookup column. When you're finished doing that, you can click on Data Sheet View. It says you must first save the table, so you click yes, and you'll notice now you've got like columns. Each of your fields is now a column where you could go and enter. So I could go and enter some names here and fill it in, and I could do it all in the table. It says ID new, it's just a new one. But there's a nicer way of doing it, and that's to create a form. And what the form does is it allows you to enter data straight into your table. So I'm going to click on save. Sorry, just make sure that's saved. I'm going to go close all, and it closes my table. But now my table is over here on the side. And if I click it open, it's still there. Just go right click and close. Always close something before you open something else. Never have more than one thing open on your tabs. I'm now going to create a form. So I click on create. I've clicked on friends here. So whatever I create will be of that one. And I'm just going to click on form. And any moment now, you'll see what that looks like. So what you can see here is it creates a space for you to type in the data. And it makes it just so much nicer to look at. I can change the design. For example, if I click on the background page, I could go into format, and I could go into my little paint bucket, and I could zhuzh it up. Maybe that's a bit too bright, I think. That's a little bit nicer. I could go and I could select all of this, and I probably want to make it bold, and I probably want to make it nice dark color, something like that. You can also remove this ID. So in the table, never remove the ID. You always want it there. But in the form, you don't want to accidentally type something over the top here, or you'll break your database. So if I click these two things and I hit delete, it's removed them from the form. Now you'll notice that you can't enter any data in here. But if you click on your Home tab, you'll notice you've got your views. You've got the form view, which allows you to enter data into your form. The layout view, which is the one we're in, where you can change a few things about layout. Design view is kind of advanced, so you can do a lot more design. And if you click on form view, you'll notice you've got a blinking cursor. So let's go and type in some information. We've got Abigail Anderson, and her email is anderson@gmail.com, and she doesn't have a mobile number, or rather I don't know what her mobile number is, and her birth date, I don't know what her birth date is, but allergies, I know she can't take nuts or pollen, So I click on that and you'll notice it's listed that. I don't know any food preferences. And